So, as you can hear, not only was playing the melodies and the voicing, but also, as I mentioned before, the major and minor triad up to the 7th, even up to the 9th, or flat 13th. So this is the language I'm working on. This is what I play, this is what I practice, mostly. So, I would like you to ask some questions. Let's open that discussion. And yeah, do you have any questions? Please do.
What's your thoughts on backing? Should we ever practice with backing?
With backing tracks? That's a good question. Thanks for that. Of course, yeah. There's nothing wrong about the backing tracks because that's the way you approach the harmony. That's the way to absorb the changes, to understand the changes, the harmony changes, the chord changes, and there's nothing wrong about playing with the backing tracks. Although there's no place actually for the collective improvisation with that within that unity. Either you play in trio or just duet with the piano. You can mute all the stuff, yeah, and then. But there's nothing wrong about you can actually practice your language by playing with the backing track. If you don't have a chance to practice with your band, and obviously that's quite, we are all limited actually to this sort of activities. And then yeah, backing tracks are very helpful. And you don't have to always play with the full quartet or quintet. You could actually mute the piano, the bass, and stick with the drums. I remember myself practicing with my drummer, with my friend, back in, I remember when I was a student at the academy in Wrocław. So that was absolutely excellent exercise for me. There was just muscles exercise in terms of my face muscles to play with the drummers for, let's say, 5 hours a day. That's a challenging process. It was like being a football player more than a musician, but that was very helpful. You could understand the rhythm, you can understand the rhythmical structures of the piece you're working on, and basically you are practicing your timing. And the same with the piano, right? And really important to play the piano. I play the piano when I compose the music, so that's a very supportive instrument. Not only just one singular melody, like on saxophone, but yes, That's a good question, and please practice with backing tracks, yeah?
Is it like better to practice with backing tracks or with metronome?
As I said, you can stick with the, in terms of the metronome and practicing your timing, you could actually mute the rest of the group and stick with the drummer. But obviously, playing with a metronome, that's another subject I wanted to discuss. Thanks for that. It's so important. It's so crucial. And as long as you set up the metronome, which counts on 2 and 4, this is where the magic happens. So let me play something for you with the metronome, counting on 2 and 4. Practice every day.
So like, let's say you had like 1 hour practice today, would you do it with the backing track or with
nowadays just with the metronome, because I can hear the changes, right? But you as a saxophonist, as a monophonic instrumentalist, you have to hear the changes. You have to spot and you have to capture the form of the piece you are working on. That's important. As soon as you get that, it's better to practice with a metronome. You can say even more. You can express yourself. even more. Thanks for your question. Time flies if you do something cool. So let me talk about another subject. I think it's important during your development, and then the actual practice is to become a virtuoso of your instrument, on your instrument, right? That's a given. You have to be great on your instrument to express yourself. You know, there's a huge competition, but not only the competition, but there's so much information out there you can absorb and you want to absorb, that it tells you that the technique on your instrument is a crucial part of your being as a musician. And then, so the actual practice is to become a virtuoso on your instrument and to be able to translate your ideas from your brain onto your instrument, in this case the saxophone, right? And to get muscles development, to get around your instrument, etc. All that stuff which is obvious. But also you have to be a listener. You have to, the same amount of practicing you have to spend for listening, right? That's really important. That's what I do. Yeah? Okay, that's the subject. And listen to the really, important people in our community, in the jazz community, starting from the very first, Papa, the tenor saxophone, Coleman Hawkins, who was born in 1904. Then Ben Webster, 1909. Lester Young, 1909, right? Then Charlie Parker, 1920. He died at the age of 35. What a legend. John Coltrane, 1926. And a hero of mine, Joe Henderson, 1937, April. Right? So, the last three people I admire the most, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, and Joe Henderson. Right? Charlie Parker, because he was the first guy who actually captured not only the beauty of the rhythm blues music, but he was the first guy who was influenced by classical composers, and he applied that knowledge onto jazz and jazz structures, really danceable and short structures of that art form we call jazz. So that's why I really love about Charlie Parker. And then John Coltrane, he was an extension of Charlie Parker. I talked to Benny Golson in London like a year ago, and he told me, because he grew up with John Coltrane, and he said John Coltrane was really bad at the very beginning. He was really bad. We all played alto saxophones, and Mr. Charlie Parker was our hero, but we couldn't find a way to even to imitate his language. He was so sophisticated, so hard to imitate. So they spent tons of hours practicing and trying to sound like Charlie, while they couldn't. But then when John Coltrane got to the Navy Army, he was an alto player. Just gradually he started to sound like Charlie Parker, and this is what tells us about their paths of development, that there's nothing bad about to imitating your heroes. Nowadays, everyone has to be an individual, right? Nowadays, everyone wants to be completely different, which is beautiful. That's the part of the music. Jazz is about being completely different. That's the beauty of it. But at the very beginning, because I see young people like young faces here, it's good to learn the language you want to speak. Then, when you play something in the future, it has this valuable content in it. All right? Okay, Chris, stop talking. We're gonna play something for you now. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or do you have any questions? Please ask.
What about your setup on these weeks?
My setup. Right. So let's start off saxophone. That's Selmer, the old one, 1956. So this is Mark 6. I found it in Sweden last year. Imagine this. This saxophone was found in the restaurant. Yeah. So it was put on the wall for 40 years. And some dude from New York actually purchased the saxophone. He was a saxophone collector. He bought the saxophone. He did the complete overhaul. And he sold it, not to me, to my friend down in Krakow in Poland. And he's a absolutely excellent saxophone collector. He's got like 20 Mark 6s. So he rang me straight away. He said, "Chris, I've got something for you. So come over here and let's give it a go." And I quite liked this saxophone. And I bought it a year ago. Okay, that's the story about my horn. I play Morgan Fry mouthpieces exclusively because I think that's the mouthpiece which creates the sound I like. I can't lie on my instrument. This is not something like I endorse when I go back to an old Ottoman. Nothing like this. It gives me that freedom of expression. That's given. That's what I play. This is a super vintage 7-star. It's like if you could imagine the mixture of Gildola and an old Tulin, Florida. Sounds strange, sounds weird, but this is the shape of it, the tip opening, the chamber, all this boring stuff. Go. Right, the reed and the ligature. I've got the ligature.